You know, I tried to warn people back in December that QAnon is most likely bullshit and it's just being used to discredit Trump supporters in general. It's going to be eventually used by the media to laugh at you, and this is exactly what happened. Now there's like Bill Maher, there's a bunch of other mainstream medias, news sources and stuff. If you type into YouTube right now, QAnon, that's all you're going to find. And it's just people laughing at Trump supporters. Uh, More reason for them to say, like, see, look, this is what attacking the media does, and it pushes people to believe and things like this. And to some extent maybe they're correct that yes, attacking the media is going to drive people away from it, like people should be driven away from it, because the media is full of liars, and ultimately the majority of them are indeed the enemy of the people. Like, that's what I believe, anyways. If I look at the majority of the reporters that I see on Twitter, they're ultimately pushing for things that are not in my interest. They're pushing for socialism, they're pushing for big government, and everything that pretty much I am against. The majority of journalists I see that are pushing I think they've done studies and stuff, or I mean they've polled journalists, and like 80% of them are liberal, and probably a good chunk of those are like far left Marxist. So yeah, a lot of journalists are indeed the enemy, but the problem is that there's like you if you don't direct them to another alternative news source that is legitimate, they're going to find other shit like this, and then they're going to kind of glob onto it. But clearly this was bullshit, and it just suckered in a lot of people who really wanted to believe in conspiracies and stuff. And that's not saying that there isn't a lot of fishy and like kind of conspicuous and probably conspiracy type things going on, because there most likely is, right? Like, if you look in the history of America and most governments, institutions like the FBI, CIA, they've all lied and done things and covered things up and had conspiracies. So things like QAnon are used to delegitimize things that are probably more legitimate. Like, there are some nugget of truths, and then QAnon comes in and just says a bunch of even crazier shit, ties it in with the stuff that may be potentially true or have some truth to it, so then it later on discredits all of it. So I saw this coming. I knew the media was going to use it, and I tried warning people about this, but they really wanted to believe it. And hopefully this is a lesson, and you just see some of the claims that they were making. And it's kind of like fortune tellers, like people that are taken in by fortune tellers. Like, they make a bunch of claims, and then a couple of them are true, and then those people, they focus in on those and ignore all the other things that they said that weren't true. Like, I remember QAnon saying something like Obama was in Guantanamo Bay, and a lot of crazy shit like that, which if you just waited a week, you'd be like, oh, okay, Obama's there, he's on in the news, and then they'd be backing that up, be like, no, this is just old video of him, and he's really this. And like, they'd back up their lies as much as they could. And I don't know who is really pushing this. I think that it is more nefarious than just a troll. I think this is something that was from the left wing people or whatever, that were trying to discredit people on the right, trying to discredit certain like Trump supporters and conservatives and stuff. Because there's this one guy like Dustin Nemo, so I remember like seeing his account just explode out of nowhere. Like, he'd make one video, and then I don't know, he exploded to at least like 50,000 in absolutely no time. And it just seemed really conspicuous to me. considering, like, I was like, what is this? And are these actually, real subs? Or are these like a lot of these bot fake subs to make this thing look more popular than it really is? Like, I don't know, but it has definitely taken in some people, and the media definitely capitalized on that by interviewing a bunch of crazies that are, that this is what they do. They find the craziest person in the crowd. There was like, that rally that Trump had, and the majority of people there do not know what QAnon is, never heard of it. Wouldn't believe it, wouldn't be taken in by it. But then there's a bunch of crazies that showed up there, and then they get interviewed by the camera, and they're like saying a bunch of insane shit. So, that is inevitably going to be tied to them. And I don't really think it's going to do that much, though, because liberals already think people on the right are retards and idiots, and believe in only fake news anyways, and would be easily taken in by all this stuff. So it doesn't really, I think, change too much their perception, but it's just probably, if anything, going to be used as another tool to censor the media, as another thing to be like, look, QAnon, and look how many people it's taken in. This is, we need to deal with this. We need to censor more things like this, but they probably won't censor QAnon. They'll kind of leave that up. But they'll be like, oh, okay, we need to censor Gavin McInnes or this, like they did just today, right before the Unite the Right rally, right? So Gavin McInnes and that, they didn't even show up. The Proud Boys, they're not even associated with Unite the Right. But you see, the media does this anyways, and they say like, oh, right before the Unite the Right rally, saying like, insinuating like they were gonna go. And it's like, no, they weren't going to go. And, this QAnon thing is going to be tied in with the majority of Trump supporters. And they're going to say, like, Trump, you got to stop saying attack the media because people are going to go and they're all going to believe this shit. But the majority of people that I follow that are more right-wing or whatever don't speak about QAnon. Very few people I saw really spoke about it. So, it didn't infiltrate as much people as you may think, but, the left-wing media is just going to use this to point and laugh at conservatives, and truthfully, a bunch of you guys did walk into it and do deserve to be laughed at. And, I tried to warn you, but, I remember some of you guys in the comment be like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, blah, blah, this is true. They know what they're saying. You're just a hater, yada, yada, yada. But, you really gotta be more skeptical of shit, even though they're saying a lot of things you want to hear, like Hillary Clinton is going to prison and she's in Guantanamo and she has a bracelet around her ankle and all this shit. Like, yeah, that would be great, but that's, you gotta moderate your expectations, because oftentimes in the real life, things aren't gonna work out the way that you want. Like, a lot of people in life deserve to go to prison, deserve a lot less than what they have, but they're still gonna die with it. They're still not going to go to jail for as long as somebody who's poor or whatever. Like, there's always going to be this type of injustice and stuff. And, it's not good to get taken in by things that will satiate your own biases or what you want, you really want to happen. Because most things are too good to be true. When something is too good to be true, that is probably true. It's not as good as you think it is, right? So, or it's not true, right? It's the opposite. So, remember that for the future, and don't get taken in by these conspiracies. And that's not to say that there aren't legitimate things that are kind of like conspiracies, or do have governments involved that are lying and all conspiring with each other. Like, those things do exist. If we look into history, look in the CIA, the FBI, even the Canadian CSIS or whatever. Like, they've all done a bunch of conspiratorial things in the past. So it wouldn't surprise me that they do something like this in the future, but the government often crafts things like QAnon to throw people off the trail of what what the true conspiracies really are, right? Like I said, there could be some nuggets of truth, but that's all going to be thrown away by the fact that they come in, QAnon comes in and attaches a bunch of shit to it. It's like, what is that guy with the lizard people? He's talking about, like, initially it's like all these governments working together and all this shit, some believable stuff, but then he says, but they're lizard people and they're this and they're that. So then everybody completely discredits it and doesn't look into maybe there is some truth to what he's saying about this or that, right? But it gets completely ruined by these crazies coming in and attaching a bunch of shit to it. So remember that. But that's all I pretty much had to say. And if you like my content, subscribe and have a good day. See ya.